Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let me begin by saying that I am humbled and honored by the opportunity to speak to you today. And I would first like to express my deepest gratitude to all of the faculty and administrators who have poured their heart and soul into making us better and more civilized people. To all of the parents who have devoted long years of their lives into what seems to be the world's most thankless job, at least in my parents' case. But most importantly, to the class of 2011, excuse me, for the vital role you all have played in my life and for the precious gift of your friendship. I'm not exactly sure how I should feel today. 13 years is a long time to be in one place. I can almost see myself on the first day of kindergarten. In fact, my fear is that there are people here today who might remember me from that time. For example, when at the age of 4 I came in to be interviewed for a spot in the kindergarten class, and I distinguished myself by throwing a chair at Taylor Thomas. I think Miss Berry was incredibly generous when she told my mom, you know, he's just not ready for kindergarten yet. So I came back the next year at the age of 5 for a second try, and of course I corrected my previous mistake by throwing up on the reading circle. Somehow they let me into the school that year, and they trusted that at some point I would become an upstanding member of the Brentwood community. I can't tell you I didn't have a couple of setbacks, 1 or 2 or 3 over time. When in 3rd grade, Dr. Cunyon had to give me a little talking to for stuffing saltine crackers into the back of Nurse Perlow's air purifier. And again in 6th grade, when I was suspended from riding the school bus for reasons I will never, ever admit to in public. By this point, I'm sure Mr. Berger is thinking, I cannot believe we let this kid be our commencement. But take heart. I am not as good as I could be, and I am not as good as I should be, but I am better than I used to be. In fact, I can confidently say that as we all stand up today to celebrate this bittersweet occasion, we have all come a long, long way. Because if I were to tell the story today of the class of 2011, I would tell the story of 118 incredibly talented, artistic, intelligent, passionate, and ambitious individuals who started out concerned mostly about themselves and unaffected by the personal struggles of their classmates, and who along the way learned the importance of friendship, empathy, and compassion. In 9th grade at school, we were all subjected to dirty looks from the seniors in the snack bar line, to naturalist Liz and her abnormal obsession with water, to slaving over freshman geometry, unless of course you were a nerd, in which case you took Miss Tori's honors classes. I don't know where she is. At home, we also showed many of the same struggles. We fought incessantly with our parents for just a little more freedom, worried about whom our roommate assignments would be on retreat, paid so much attention to who we should be friends with, as to sometimes forget who we actually were friends with. But what most of us didn't know was that we were not the only ones who shared these anxieties. That if we stopped thinking only about our own troubles and reached out to those who were having the hardest times, if we didn't fear each other's judgment as much as we did, if we didn't draw a line between ourselves and the weirdos or the strangers, we would all be the better for it. I suppose we just didn't know that we were all weirdos and we were all strangers. In sophomore year, we saw the advent of CC's and Mr. Cook. Thought we actually had some swag while we paid way too much for mediocre after parties. And wanted to rip our eyeballs out every time we looked at the periodic table or the Pythagorean theorem. That was for you, faculty. And privately, We all wondered what it would be like if we sat at the brown tables instead of the white tables in the North Quad. Or if we ate in the SLC or if we ate in the SLC at lunch. Or if we showed up to that party at which we probably wouldn't have been welcome. But while we knew that there were those among us who couldn't afford luxuries like a cell phone that the rest of us took for granted, while we knew that some of us were struggling with siblings' illnesses or watching our families fall apart, and while we knew that even those who seem to have it all may also suffer from heartache and regret, few of us had the maturity to extend a helping hand. Few of us had the insight to recognize that we were all looking for the same thing: a friend to laugh with, to cry with, and to trust. Now, I realize that these are universal issues among high school students. The world is full of nightmare stories from high school. For most people, it's a time that they would rather forget. And ours might have been that way too, but it wasn't. It wasn't because, unlike others, we managed to perceive each other's vulnerabilities and to recognize our own power to close those wounds. By junior year, we began to treat each other differently than we had before. For the first time, we stopped judging each other. We began to let go of the often inaccurate reputations that used to follow us to bed each night and out through the door each morning. We had our struggles during that tedious year of academic toil. The fear of messing up the SAT for the billionth time, of not having a high enough GPA, of coming up short in our parents' eyes. Our bonding began to take shape around our football and basketball games, around the satisfaction of no longer being an underclassman, and of course, around our developing but undying love of boba. Then came senior year, the year of endless college counseling and applications, of losing our off-campus privileges because we couldn't care less what Naviance was, and of almost doing our econ homework. Oh wait, I'm a second semester senior. But before all of that, yeah. Thanks, Mr. Mike. But before all of that, we had our senior retreat and our 6-hour campfire. That night, each of us had a chance to speak about anything at all before the entire group, and we trusted each other enough to expose our greatest vulnerabilities. We spoke of our guilt or anger or shame. We cried about being betrayed by a friend. We dared the others to imagine what it was like to feel that your life was a lie, or what it was like to feel invisible. We apologized for acts we regretted, confessed our deepest crush, even discovered that we weren't the only one who had ever fabricated excuses for why we were sitting at home alone on a Saturday night. Instead of dismissing each other, or passing judgment, or keeping our guards up, we finally stopped to look at and listen to the person who was standing there on the cusp. We finally got it. That just as we had once hurt each other, we could now heal each other. Just as we had once been cruel, we could now console. And at the end, we created FTC. We learned how incredibly difficult it is to be mean to someone once you truly know them. And we learned that no matter what lay behind or what lay ahead of us, we had each other. This is the core of our story. It's not only about all of our professional capabilities or our artistic talents. It's not only about our 38 applications to Brown University. It's not even about our superhuman consumption of Tycho. It's about the distances we have traversed in order to come together. It's about our ability to transgress the expected laws of high school and connect to each other with compassion in spite of where we once were. This, then, will be the gift that we take away from Brentwood and give to the world. Our understanding that the capacity for empathy and the ability to create lasting friendships are the most noble and rewarding qualities that we have as humans. It is true that for some of us, this understanding may have come too late. I know there are people here today who bore the brunt of so much of our carelessness or neglect. I know there are parts of this story we are not proud of. To those who have felt unloved or mistreated, who have hidden shyly in the corners and counted the days until you could leave Brentwood and start over, I'm sorry. It was not you who failed, it was we who learned too late. I hope that you will trust that your experience has served as a lesson for the rest. I hope that you will forgive. But my ultimate hope for all of us is that we continue to harness the gifts we bear for this world as we have done this year. Just close your eyes and think about signing our FTC poster. Think about the parties we threw just to be together. Think about the standing ovations we gave for those who had never performed before at Coffee House. Think about our wall of rejection where we refused to admit failure and instead inspired pride. Because I see these days in your eyes a depth of compassion that I know we did not have 4 years ago. You all have given me infinitely more than I have earned. When I was mistreated by girls, you reminded me never to forget my own value and worth. Very important lesson. Very important lesson. When I yelled at my parents and stormed out of my house, you all provided me a second home. And when I watched my original college dreams evaporate into thin air, as has happened for all of us, you all reminded me that I had never actually wasted a second of my time. For all of this, I thank you. And no matter what happens after today, remember this. Together, we wrote a story of hope and achievement and the human capacity for selfless giving. And together, we will continue to write the story of the class of 2011 with love and with compassion and with the courage we can draw from knowing that through trial and error, we always had each other and will always have each other. Thank you and cheers.